From the station working for you, this is WRTV News at Noon, streaming now.
It appears to be official. The pandemic cannot be an official excuse if you want to vote by mail in Indiana this year. Coming up, more on the court ruling that could limit the number of absentee ballots that will be cast for the general election. Thanks for joining us here this midday. I'm Lauren Casey. Kyle Mounts is in studio with me right now, taking a look at our forecast. And Kyle is just saying we started out the morning where I brought a scarf to work, and you say I do not need that as we leave the building.
You are not going to want that this afternoon.
Okay.
No, that is for sure. We may want to have the shorts. Temperatures are warming pretty quickly here. We got a lot of sunshine out there, and that will be the case right through the afternoon. It is already 75 degrees in the Circle City. We got a west breeze there around 15 miles per hour, and it will stay a little breezy for us. That temperature 73 now in Columbus, 70 in Thorntown, Lafayette already into the middle 70s, and 76 in Muncie. So there's that wind, generally out of the west and southwest, again around 10 to 15 miles per hour. As we look at these wind gusts through the next couple of hours, it'll be around 20 miles per hour, and then it'll taper off after sunset tonight. But generally out of that southwest direction as we wait on a cold front to move through, and that's going to provide some very warm temperatures through the afternoon. We're talking about numbers about 10 to 15 degrees above average for this time of year as we top out around 80. We'll talk about the warmth sticking around for the upcoming weekend in just a few minutes.
All right, Kyle, thank you. Breaking news this midday. It appears you will not be able to use the COVID-19 pandemic as an excuse to vote by absentee ballot in Indiana this year. A federal appeals court has upheld a ruling affirming the state's current limits on voting by mail. A group of voters had sued the state in an effort to expand the list of reasons that you have to provide election officials to qualify to vote by absentee ballot. Several other states are allowing voters to cast ballots by mail to avoid contracting the virus, but the appeals court ruled that Indiana already offers 13 reasons to request an absentee ballot, as well as several weeks of in-person early voting. We have more on this court ruling and how it impacts you at WRTV.com. So if you can't vote in person and you need to take part in an absentee voting by mail, you should file an application for a ballot immediately. The deadline to turn in your ballot application is October 22nd. Your mail-in ballot must be postmarked on or before Election Day, November 3rd, and it has to be received by your election office no later than November 13th in order to be counted. Hundreds of people across central Indiana are standing in lines again today for the second day of in-person early voting. Most counties reported some big numbers on the first day that you could cast a ballot early. That included more than 1,200 people voting in Marion County, which was a single-day early voting record here. We went inside the city-county building to show you what's being done to help keep you safe. There are clear dividers between the poll workers and the voters. Poll workers go around and wipe off voting machines after every use. Every voter must wear a mask. However, when you're in line, there's no markers showing you where to stand, so it's up to you and the people around you to make sure that social distancing is taking place while you're in line. Everything you need to know about casting your vote this election can be found at our election website. We have all the deadlines for early and absentee voting, plus guides to all the races, profiles on all the candidates. You can find that all at WRTV.com/vote in 2020. Well, tonight, the two candidates for vice president will meet face-to-face with protective plexiglass in between for a debate that follows a chaotic week in the race for the White House. We spoke to our political insiders, Democrat Jamar Cobb-Denard and conservative commentator Abdul Hakim Shabazz. I asked them whether tonight's debate will do much to sway the voters at this point in the campaign.
It might. It depends what the vice president does, because unfortunately, or fortunately, 90% of all the folks have, I said in the polling we've seen so far, I said they got their minds made up. So there's only a 10% window of people left to change. So potentially the vice president could. I think it's very doubtful. I think most people probably have their minds made up that 10%. But hey, it doesn't hurt to try.
This debate is going to have more impact than prior vice presidential debates, especially because we've got two older candidates running for president, and we also have a president who has serious health concerns right now. So the viability of a vice president becoming vice president is even higher than it's ever been. So I think a lot of voters will take that into account as they watch tonight to see what could a future president look like if we ever had to go down that road.
And on that same note, do you guys think this could also be a preview for a matchup we could see in 2024 between these two candidates, regardless of what happens this election season?
I don't necessarily think so, because usually if a vice president loses in that previous election, they don't necessarily run they don't run again. Now, if they win, then that's a whole different ball of wax. But I don't necessarily think we'll see Kamala Harris-Mike Pence matchup in 2024.
We could. I don't disagree with Abdul, but here's the thing. Mike Pence, for years, even before he was governor of the state of Indiana, expressed directly and indirectly that he has higher aspirations. And that's part of the reason why he was allowed to catapulted himself to the White House in Washington, D.C., or back to D.C. And Kamala Harris clearly wanted to be in the ring for the presidential seat and is a viable contender. So whether we see the two of them individually together again, but we may see them as individuals in the future running as president.
And much thanks to Abdul and Jamar for joining us today. A reminder, you can watch the vice presidential debate tonight right here on WRTV. Coverage starts with a 2020 special at 8 o'clock, followed by the debate at 9. And don't forget to stay tuned for the news at 11 right here on WRTV. Following a scheduled campaign stop in Arizona, the vice president and his wife, Karen Pence, will make a brief stop right here at home in Indiana. The White House says the Pences will be back in Indianapolis this Friday to cast their ballots for the November election. It is expected to be a quick trip. The White House says they will return to the nation's capital that evening. The latest numbers on COVID-19 in Indiana are now in, and they continue to be on the rise. The state health department reporting 1,302 new cases of the virus today, along with 17 additional COVID-related deaths. That brings Indiana to 3,500 deaths since the pandemic began. More worrisome, though, is that more counties are moving into the yellow or orange category because of an increase in cases and the positive test rate. Marion County is now in the yellow as its positivity rate rose above 5%. Could talks to give you another stimulus check be back on? Next, what could be an about-face from the president on whether Congress should send you more money before the election. Kyle.
Our weather has been very quiet, but the tropics have been very active. In the Atlantic and Gulf of Mexico, we now have our 25th named storm. It's Hurricane Delta moving across the Yucatan. How this could influence our weather heading into the weekend. You're watching WRTV News at Noon.
Welcome back. As COVID-19 cases rise in many states and the economy continues to struggle, it's up in the air as to whether you might get more help from the White House and Congress. President Trump had said that he was walking away from talks on stimulus relief, but as ABC's Rena Roy tells us, he could be changing his mind.
The nation's top infectious disease expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci, out with a dire warning, telling American university students in a virtual event the U.S. death toll could nearly double in the next few months if we don't take action.
If we do not do the kinds of things that we're talking about in the cold of the fall and the winter, we could have from 300,000 to 400,000 deaths.
Right now, at least 31,000 Americans are hospitalized with COVID-19, according to the COVID Tracking Project. Just a few days ago, one of those patients was the president. 32 states plus Puerto Rico are seeing a growing number of cases. 36 states facing rising hospitalizations. The White House has even become a hotbed of infection. But still, Trump is telling Americans,
don't be afraid of it.
In isolation inside the White House, the president rattling Wall Street, tweeting Tuesday an abrupt end in talks with Democrats on an economic stimulus bill to help struggling Americans.
I read it and I was like, what? And it was like my heart fell to my stomach. It's scary living day to day.
The market immediately responding negatively. President Trump accused House Speaker Nancy Pelosi of not negotiating in good faith. Pelosi firing back, saying clearly the White House is in complete disarray. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell on Fox News.
We'll re-engage after the election, as the president said. I think we do need another rescue package.
Just a few hours before, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell warned of tragic consequences for the economy if Congress doesn't come to an agreement soon.
Since it appears that many will undergo extended periods of unemployment, there is likely to be a need for further support. Too little support would lead to a weak recovery, creating unnecessary hardship for households and businesses.
The president says he wants Republicans to focus on approving Judge Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court instead of the stimulus package. Shortly after his sudden announcement, Trump suggested he would be willing to sign a bill that would provide another round of stimulus checks to Americans. But Democrats say they want to move forward with a broader stimulus package. Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
Well, there aren't too many people who can say that they changed the course of music history. Next, a look at the guitarist who couldn't read music himself, but who made everyone want to play the way that he did. And let's take a live look outside right now, overlooking the Circle City view to the west. You can see the White River off there in the distance, blue, sunny skies, and Kyle Mounts has a great forecast ahead for our midweek forecast. That's all coming up here on the news at noon. Stick around.
February 10th, 1978.
Well, you can tell by the way I use my walk, I'm a woman's man, no time to talk.
That was the #1 song in America on that date. It was also the very same day that at your favorite record store there was a minor eruption. Eddie Van Halen's solo that everyone has copied since then was actually the second track on side 1 of the album that changed everything. The first track of Van Halen would also be an icon. It was the message we got from the preacher every Sunday if we had Van Halen spinning on our record players the night before. Eddie Van Halen wasn't even Eddie yet. He was Edward, according to the first Rolling Stone review of that first album. The reviewer also accused Edward and Van Halen of not doing anything original. He obviously wasn't listening to track 4 of side 1. The lyrics were not exactly Shakespeare, but it wasn't supposed to be. Some of it was typical rock and roll: women, booze, rinse and repeat. And then Eddie would break out something like track 7 of side 2. He'd take a half cup of Jimi Hendrix, a dash of Jimmy Page, and blend it into something no one had done before. Van Halen would be one of the most influential albums in the history of music, but in 1978, fans weren't buying it just yet. Van Halen only peaked at number 19 on the Billboard album chart, and it took it a while to get there. But a whole lot of young kids with guitars saw it differently, and Eddie Van Halen's life would kind of end up like a lyric on side 2, track 9.
And then they went and they voted you least likely to succeed. I had to tell them, maybe you were armed with all you need. Seems no one's talking about those greasy days gone past. Weren't they amazed when you were feeling?
February 10th, 1978, guitarists had a new god. And even though Eddie is now gone, they are still trying to play just like him. Ray Steele, WRTV.
Best known for the song that went to #1 in 1972. Johnny Nash's I Can See Clearly Now made a comeback more than 20 years later when it was featured in the movie Cool Runnings about the Jamaican bobsled team. Nash also helped make history when his record company in Jamaica signed a little-known reggae artist named Bob Marley back in the 1960s. His son says Johnny Nash died Tuesday morning of natural causes at his home in Houston. He was 80 years old. Well, we've got to turn off the music now and bring in Kyle Mounts, but the weather is kind of music to our ears, Kyle, because it's kind of a summer-like day out there in the middle of October.
Yeah, you know, our rain has been gone for quite a while now.
That's true.
We could use a little bit of it, but we are going to enjoy some very mild temperatures. Numbers are running already about 10 degrees warmer now than they were at lunchtime yesterday. That puts us in the middle 70s in Indy, Muncie, and Shelbyville. Lower 70s right now, 71 degrees in Bloomington and Kokomo, all with sunshine, and we're going to keep that going here through the afternoon. 83 for your afternoon number in the Bloomington area, Columbus at 83, upper 70s around Muncie, Peru at 79. That's because we've got a cold front that's going to be moving through the state. It's not really going to be producing much other than a slight drop in those temperatures, especially as we go into the day tomorrow. This evening, clear skies will be the rule here as numbers continue to slide back through the 60s. But as we get to 8 o'clock this evening, we're around 70 degrees, about 60 at midnight tonight. Clear skies, great for viewing the International Space Station. It will be an exceptional pass for us tonight that will last about 6 minutes. It starts at 7:48 tonight, low in the northwestern sky. It will disappear in the southeastern sky again about 6 minutes later there. You'll see that light just kind of moving swiftly through the sky there. So pretty cool to check it out if you get the chance later on this evening. Tonight it will be a little cooler. We'll drop back middle to upper 40s. As we get into tomorrow morning, 49 in Indy and 44 in Richmond. The Thursday forecast, though, the sunshine is back. That's not going anywhere. And even though temperatures will be a little bit cooler tomorrow, this is still a little above average for this time of year. 67 at noon. We'll get to 74 for your Thursday afternoon high. We talked about the rain. Hasn't been around central Indiana for a while. In fact, 49 days. Today will make day 50, and that is a record for 1/10 of an inch or less in the rain gauge in Indianapolis, followed there by what was a very dry summer in 2012. Where will our next chance for rain come from? Well, it may be this hurricane that's moving across the Yucatan Peninsula right now. It is Delta. Notice that as it goes through time here into the weekend, we'll see the remnants of it moving across portions of Kentucky and Tennessee. So TrueCast shows the increase in cloud cover here as we go through Saturday. Then on Sunday afternoon and evening, we'll see some rain. Shouldn't be all that heavy, but some areas could pick up between 1/4 and 1/2 inch of rain. The exact track, though, we'll watch for you. That 7-day planning forecast, we're back to 80 degrees for a high on Friday. A little cooler with those showers for the second half of the weekend, but highs are still in the 70s next week. Lauren?
All right, Kyle, thank you. Well, they say it'll be like walking through history. Coming up, an exhibit that promises to immerse you in the works of one of history's most famous artists. Stick around, you're watching the news at noon right here on WRTV. Welcome back. So it's expected to be one of the biggest exhibits ever at the Indianapolis Museum of Art at Newfields. Today, the museum announced the exhibit coming next year called the Loom Indianapolis. It will take up the museum's entire 4th floor, and it will be entirely digital. It will use almost 150 high-definition projectors to transform the works of Vincent van Gogh from 2-dimensional paintings into a 3D experience, unlike any exhibit the museum has ever offered.
It's about that invitation that we're giving to everyone to come and look at art differently, and in that completely immersive world that the Loom will be, where you're standing in a painting as it's being painted around you.
Wow, well, the Loom exhibit is scheduled to open at Newfields in June of 2021. That looks pretty interesting, Kyle.
Looks very cool to check out here. Something to look forward to. We also have some nice temperatures this afternoon to look forward to. Highs will be right around 80 degrees. Average is only in the upper 60s, so a bonus day of some warmth. Tonight, seasonably cool with those clear skies. We're into the upper 40s to start off our Thursday. But we will keep the mild temperatures going here, highs around 80 degrees again by Friday.
All right, Kyle, thank you. And thank you for joining us and making WRTV your choice for news. Come back tonight and join us for the news at 5. Have a great Wednesday.